Hey friends, and welcome back to the River of Suck. This is Andy Reiner, your host of the River of Suck podcast. A quick warning to our listeners, this episode contains explicit language. If you are easily offended, please listen to a different episode. Swear words have not been bleeped. You have been warned. Here we go. Let's get into my interview with Bonnie and Taylor Sims. Oh, yeah.
Sick, bro.
Welcome to the River of Suck, Bonnie and Taylor Sims.
Woohoo.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. Thanks for having us, man.
Coming to you in person, in real life,
That's right.
Real life. IRL.
in Colorado.
That's right. Our home.
So, friends, I want to hear more about who you are.
Sure.
Tell us your superhero origin story of Bonnie and Taylor.
Origin story.
Well, it started with, like all good stories start with a spill of nuclear waste.
Yeah, and then I was bitten by a spider. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, let's get real. No nuclear waste.
I like this story. That's good.
We met at school. We went to the same music college, so that was our meeting. And Taylor has a really sweet story of how he saw me, but I ignored him in the hallway.
It's
Like
true.
on the first day of class.
I saw her coming up the hall, and she was with a friend who I had already met, but I hadn't met Bonnie yet. And so we made the pleasant introductions, but she didn't give me the time of day. She blew me off. Well, she didn't really blow me off.
I was probably
what
like
it
getting
felt.
to class,
Uh-oh.
ready to study. You know, I was excited from first day of music school.
That's what it was.
But he remembers like what color shirt I was wearing.
Yeah.
It's really sweet.
But we
Ironically, it was red.
That's right. So we met at SPC, which is in Levelland, Texas, and started hanging out. And we were in the same group of friends, jamming bluegrass, and in the same department. We had a ensemble together, I think, at school, and then so we started. It all started with music. It all started with
Yep.
jamming and picking tunes and singing together, and then it and then I set my sights on the romance. And and then that was 16 years ago
Yep.
now. So
Yep.
it all started
2005.
all started with the string band.
Yep. Then he asked to come over and use my printer at my dorm.
Yeah, that was my
It was his in.
my in.
It's a good thing you had a printer.
I know. I had a printer and a computer.
Yeah,
I had some like ancient desktop shit that was like, I'm sure.
yeah, and I had a friend who was also sort of chasing her. And he happened to be in earshot when I said, "Hey, can I come over to your dorm and use your printer?" And he was like, "There's printers in the computer lab, Taylor." I said, "Yeah, I know." And
So
then that was it. From there on out, we spent most all of our time, pretty much from then on out together.
There was a series of bands, and now you're playing with Bonnie and Taylor Sims. Everybody Loves an Outlaw.
yep.
Yep.
And
Totally.
Big Richard.
Yep.
And what else?
That's pretty much
Pretty much it right now.
Yeah,
Everything else is
we've kind of consolidated we used to kind of have a duo and a band, and
Mm-hmm.
now we're just Bonnie and Taylor Sims band, and sometimes it's the two of us, and sometimes we fill it out with our amazing rhythm section with Kevin Matthews and Bradley Morris.
Right.
So it's like we can do any kind of like iteration of it, and it works that way. And then Everybody Loves an Outlaw is our much different sounding, like commercial project that has had like some sync licensing success in the last 2 years or year and a half, I guess. So
Cool. And I think
Rad.
Taylor just joined Joy and my ski band. So you're in Half Pelican.
That's right.
When we
That's
play
right.
Loveland Ski Area.
That's right.
I love it.
Oh man, I'm so excited for that.
Yes.
I love
Nice.
joining bands.
Yeah.
No, it's gonna be fun.
I love it.
Sweet.
Ski band.
So it sounds like everything is awesome, but was it always easy getting here?
No.
No,
Definitely
no,
not.
it was not. I mean, it's always been fun. I'll start with saying that it's always been fun, but it has not been. It has not been easy. There have been some really hard times throughout it, which I'm sure your listeners have heard the struggles of the musician before, but it's
What went wrong, and how did you not quit?
Yeah. My God.
Man.
Everything, and I don't know.
Yeah.
At some point, everything. Different times. I mean,
Well, I'd say to get to to put a finer point on it, I'd say our biggest problem over the years was finding the right team of people, to help facilitate things and to kind of see things the way we wanted them, because we've always worked with other musicians and on making albums and playing live and different band members and stuff, and so that's been something that has been hard.
zeroing in on our sound has been a hard thing, I think, just because like musically we both do kind of a different, we just have an array of things we do. And I feel like with marketing and with branding, you kind of have to pick a lane and stick it. And so that's something that I've learned to do later in life. Like I feel like I had to try lots of stuff at first, try lots of different flavors. Like, were we going to be a classic country cover band and play like George Jones and Merle Haggard, and was I going to yodel all the time and like do a big bouffant in my hair and wear like retro clothes? I did that at first. No, I'm not going to do that. And then it's like, well, okay, I'm going to write my own songs and do that. And then they started off, but they're country songs, and it's like, are they country songs or are they more like pop songs, kind of like pop country? Or like, what kind of songs are they that I'm writing? Because they're not old country songs, So like kind of struggling with that, like, what do you call this every time you have to like put your hands in it and figure out what you are and like come back up with a new thing? Then people are like, I thought you were this, so it's like introducing that to the fans in the right way, figuring out that relationship, and then also in my own head figuring it out. So double struggle.
Did you ever experience like self-doubt when you're trying to figure out who you are in your head?
All the time.
Oh yeah.
Tell us
single day.
about this, some stories of self-doubt.
Sure. I'll wrangle Ruby. You tell us stories.
Yeah, man, there seems to be an endless amount of stories of self-doubt, but I guess one that is sort of big and has had kind of an overarching thing to it is just trusting your own sound. Like I feel like I'm just now at 37 years, and after having I've been doing this professionally since I was 20, and having that, like, this is what I do, not trying to do what I think others want from me, just doing exactly what I want, and so I'd say that's been the biggest story of self-doubt, because it took me 17 years. It took me 17 years to, and I'm still in it, It's still ongoing, that battle of self-doubt and deprecation is always a struggle, always ongoing. But I think the biggest one that I always struggled with was trusting my own sound, trusting what I like, and not trying to play music for anyone other than myself in those moments, especially of creativity,
Yeah, that's so many layers of like, what do other people think happening when you're just trying to express yourself?
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely.
And it seems to be the most, the artists that I resonate with the most are the ones that I feel like are the most honest, that they would be doing that with or without an audience. They would sound the exact same.
Sure. And,
so I guess that's something that I would strive for as well.
So you appear on stage to be really confident. Do you think sharing some of that vulnerability on stage comes through in the lyrics?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely have written songs recently that, like, my newest song is like one where I literally have a lyric that's like, sometimes I feel like I'm not enough. Like, that's like a reality of, I think, just being a human. And that's something that I want to show people more, because I feel like I get that feedback a lot. Like, oh, you're so confident, you're so strong. And I really appreciate it, because honestly, it makes me feel confident and strong, because I don't feel that like inside of me, but I understand now that I radiate that, or like I give that off or whatever. And But I don't always feel that. Like I actually rarely feel like there's moments where I feel it, but I also feel like when I lean too far into it, that's when I stumble. So I like never really lean into that feeling, if that makes sense. Like on stage, especially, like I just try to stay in the flow of it and not be like, oh, that was badass, like, but if people are looking at me thinking that I'm thinking that, it's like, I'm not, I'm just trying to stay in the flow, but it's like, so it's like, the difference between like the reality and the perception of like what it comes off as versus the inner dialogue that's happening in my head. I don't think that they have like a lot of parallels, but I really appreciate that feedback because it makes me confident. So maybe it's like this crazy secret like performer loop of like myself knows that I need that. So I do it to get it, but I don't really feel it or something. It's like a subconscious thing. Like I don't fucking know. But I definitely appreciate that feedback when people tell me that. I'm like, thank you, because that means a lot to me.
I think sometimes for me, like I'll call that pretend confidence, because I have some issues with this fake it till you make it stuff, where if you're actually doing it, you're not faking it. So you're just pretending to be confident.
Sure.
When inside you have all kinds of like inner demons and thought piranhas swimming around.
Totally.
Yeah, thought piranhas. I like that.
Major thought piranhas. Yeah, I definitely, I feel like singing and performing is the time when I have less self-doubt, like when I'm actually doing it. It feels so good that I'm like able to just do it, and I'm not really thinking about how it sounds or how it is coming across, because I'm just feeling how it feels, and that is such an overwhelming sensation in my body that I allow that to totally, I just like go underwater with that shit. Like, no, I don't need any air. I'm down there in the bottom of the ocean. But then when I'm watching videos, or I'm like looking at pictures, or I'm listening to a session back, or, then I'm like, oh, my face. Oh, what was that thing with my voice? Like, why did I do that? Why did I do this? Ooh, why did I hit that open string on the mandolin? Like, I'm hearing all the mistakes that when I was performing it, I didn't really, it's not that I didn't hear them. It's just they didn't feel bad because everything else felt so good. I don't know. And then when you listen back, you hear them isolated. You're like, that doesn't feel good now. I ruined it. Like that one note ruined a whole song or whatever with a vocal performance. I'm like, wish I didn't sing that note.
Yeah.
So.
Well, let's talk about the River of Suck then, because I think we're swimming in it right now.
I feel like we're in it.
We're in it. Yeah, we're definitely in it. So the River of Suck is an imaginary river that flows through your mind.
Yep.
You're on one side, one edge. You're on your comfort shore. Behind you is your comfort cave, where you do all the things you know how to do. Comfort zone, stuff that's easy, no worries. On the other side, you see little tiny, faraway future versions of yourself who can do the things you wish you could do now. The problem is in between you and that future is the raging whitewater rapids of the River of Suck.
Totally.
And it's filled with rocks, whitewater rapids, thought piranhas.
I love it.
I love that.
And I think the thought piranhas really represent all of those like little tingles in your brain that are telling you all the self-doubt things, all the different like monkey mind questions of like when you can't get your brain to shut up and get in the flow state. Those thought piranhas are those things really getting in your way. So I'm curious. Does that make sense? Do you see that as a part of what you're doing?
Like,
that's one of the greatest representations of it that I've ever heard
totally.
in terms of like the completeness of it. Of course we can everyone understands self-doubt, but to put it with that kind of imagery, at least it resonates terribly well with me.
Well, and like the idea that you have to, anything in this business and in this field, the first step is being really shitty at it and accepting that and pushing through those moments to get better. And if you can't do that, if you don't know what it feels like to suck at stuff, then you don't know what it feels like to get better, because you have to suck first. And like, I'm 100% like that's how I lure people out of their little comfort caves and voice lessons, because I'm like, and I do it with them. I'm like, I'll sing with you. I'll get weird with you. I'll make noises with you. You're not alone. Like, and that usually compels people enough to where they will get out of their comfort zone if you'll do it with them. If you're like, I'll make all the faces that I'm asking you to make, I'll make them first. Look, I want you to do this. Like, and so like squishing their cheeks up and like holding their face like this and singing like this, it's like, I literally took 6 weeks of voice lessons like that. Like this stuff, it's like, doesn't really make sense or feels silly, especially with voice in the moment, and then can be so worthwhile in the long run. And so I'm
So the
I'm like, get your
process
floaties
is
out
messy.
and play in the river of suck a little bit. Yeah, get in there and suck. Yeah, definitely. The process is super messy for teaching voice, also because it's emotional. People are connected to their voice as an identity piece. And literally, I've never had a voice student where at some point they're not like tears in their eyes, like telling me why this is hard, because it's part of your heart. Like singing is in our hearts and stuff. And not to get too like sentimental about it, but it's in your heart, Andy.
Yeah. Is part of your job when you're teaching singing to get people out of the like sabotage stage?
Yeah, to like recognize the self-doubt. I like talk to people about like, I always phrase it like, I love your river of suck thing. I always talk to people about like, it's a big heavy feeling, right? Like this thing is weighing you down. So you have two options. You can keep holding it and like letting it suffocate you, or you can put it down and stand on top of it because it's fucking big and solid and it's real and you have to do something with it. So like I encourage people to get on top of the feeling as opposed to let the feeling dominate them, but recognize that it's real and that it's super palatable. Like you, my throat just did that. Like you can touch it and it's scary. Like it's a scary feeling to be overwhelmed with like, can I do this? Will anybody care? Why should I sing? Those kind of feelings, or like, or my voice isn't good enough to sing, like those kind of things. So those are real.
So what do you do with it? How do you get on top of it?
Literally just like, I think good experiences build confidence. A safe environment allowing you to have those good experiences can build that confidence. So I tend to sing with people until they're ready. And I never lie to them. And I'm never like, oh, I'm going to sing with you and then make them sing by themselves. I always tell them, okay, now you're going to try it by yourself. You ready? Like, and set them up for success and like try to build their confidence before I get them to that moment. And then just have them, talk about, because a lot of people are worried that their voice doesn't sound like fill in the blank, Adele, Demi Lovato, whatever, like some person they want to sound like.
Yeah.
And so explaining and telling them over and over again, your voice is never going to sound like that and they're never going to sound like you. So sound like you, because that is so much more powerful than trying to sound like them. There's a million people that try to sound like Adele. Don't be one of them. You know? So like encouraging them to find their own voice and like just saying that it's worthwhile to them over and over again.
Totally. The shortest way of saying that I've ever heard is Victor Wooten says to be the youest you that you can be.
Yes, exactly.
Man, that's, yeah.
So like, what makes you feel like you're youest you?
That's a good question, man. I'd say for me, it comes down to who I'm doing it with and why I'm doing it is what makes me feel like the meest me. Because I've had those experiences like in empty bar rooms when nobody's paying attention. But if I can switch off that thing of the internal validation versus the external validation, then I get a lot more out of it. Then I can go to those spaces when it's like nobody cares about this, so why should I care about this in this moment? And if I can turn that around, then I can actually make something with it and try to get to that spot when when I'm doing it for its own sake, Internal
validation versus external validation. That's interesting, and it's very interesting in the context of playing a show that it seems like nobody cares.
Sure.
But the funny thing is when you stop playing, they're like, more, and then they go back to talking. Like that's a
No, I
yeah, man. It's
or like you're packing up and they walk in, they're like, "Are you done?" And you're like, "I've been here for 3 hours." Like, yeah, I'm done. I'm packing up. Like, it's over.
Yeah. Start dropping the hundreds into the tip jar. We can keep talking.
Yeah.
Then we can talk.
Then we can have
No,
this
if I have torn down my sound, it's over.
Yeah.
But that's not true. But we've done it. We've done it in the past when it's like we just bust out
guitar.
some acoustic tunes. But yeah, it's just a hard balance of like finding those things. But it's like I in terms of gigs, I guess I've there's like the three boxes, I'm sure that you're aware of the three boxes when it comes to playing gigs. Is it good music? is it good people and is it good money? You know, and so hopefully we check all three of those boxes at the same time, or, you know, with one gig. Hopefully we can get there with all of them. But, you know, I've kind of told myself, and I'm not the first one to have this thought, but it's like I have to check at least two of those boxes, you know, for it to be worthwhile. You know, it can't just be good. It can't just be good money. You know, and so that would mean bad music and with people I don't really, I'm not really jiving with. You know, so it can't be. It's got to be 2 out of 3.
It sounds like a lot of what helps you guys get into the flow state is kind of curating your situation so that it's good
Most certainly.
mentally and professionally.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, I love searching for that flow state when it just for no other reason other than just because, you know, because I love searching for that and I love getting into that. And I think it's the most profound when it doesn't have any sort of outside impetus, you know. But I also, you know, I'm like a deadline guy, you know, like I work best when I have something kind of nipping at my heels.
Yeah.
You know,
It's like a quote unquote real thing.
And so,
you know, or whatever.
You know,
that
when it comes, especially when it comes to being creative or completing anything that is on the plate, you know, like I need that sort of fire to be, you know, to really tap into that the meest of me, you know. But I think that's also come out of the professional grind a lot too.
Like
you
our
know,
lifestyle,
of like
totally.
choosing to make this our living, you know, like our purpose and our purpose, passion, and money, you
productivity.
know, like all of it. So,
Yeah, I think that's really accurate. I definitely feel like the meest me when I'm on stage performing. Like I feel like, and that's why I always empathize with students when they're like, I could do it better when fill in the blank, like when you weren't there, when I was just with my friends, like I played it. We were all like we were actually playing music together. You know, they weren't in a lesson setting, and they're like, something happened and I did it better than I've ever done it. And I like look at them and I'm like, I believe you 100% because I know what you're talking about, because that exists for me in my life on a regular basis of like having moments where I'm like, I'm a better mandolin player, I'm a better singer when people are looking and they have this expectation or something. And it's like this energetic, I get to receive, they're like, is she going to do it? And I like get to be like, yeah, I'm going to do it. And then, I do it. And then it feels really, really good. Like that's like, I feel like I do it the best. Like, especially with singing, I will say like, I've had moments where I like try something on stage that I've never practiced and that I didn't think that I could do or didn't like I'm talking about like range stuff where I'm like, am I going to belt that note? And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, that vocal placement feels like I can get there easy. Whereas in rehearsals, I didn't have access to that. Like I wasn't relaxed enough, or I wasn't enough in the right part of my body to have that note in that vocal placement. And then on stage, oh my God, wow, I did. How'd I do that? I don't know. I don't fucking know. Like I did it because people were looking at me. That's my only like answer. Like that's my best guess. Like so I completely appreciate when students say that, you know. Like I feel like the energy of the room and like sometimes, you know, like I think that's why auditions are really hard and why I cringe at a lot of those like talent shows, because I just feel like it's like watching people in one of their worst moments kind of, or like you can tell they're just so challenged and so shook up. Sometimes they can't even like get their breath. And I'm like, I would want to sing like that. You can't sing your best like that. Nobody can. So I feel bad for them, honestly. Like, and I think like I could never do that when I see it. And I couldn't never do it. And there's some people that dominate. There's some people that their breath does not get away from them. They slam it to the wall. And those people, I'm like, holy shit, you have balls of steel. Mad respect. Love you. I'm crying. You're crying. Everybody's crying. Like, I love it. So it goes both ways for sure.
So everyone's heard of like bands who are better live than on the recording.
Sure.
So if your flow state energy is really based on feeding off of people, how do you record? How do you find that same
painfully slowly and painfully?
Tell me about the pain.
It's better now.
Yeah, I mean it's gotten easier, I guess. But it's I don't know. It's I mean, for me, it all comes down to the song. You know, like I have to believe in the song, above all else. Then I can, if I'm really playing for the sake of the song, then I can, then that can become like the audience, where I can, instead of using, instead of using my musicianship to build me up, I want to try and use my musicianship to build the song up, and hopefully get there. So with recording, for me, I have to feel like that there is something in that song that is really that I really identify with, and that might be the entire song. That might be everything about that song: the groove, the changes, the melody, the performance, the players, the vibe of the room. The sounds that are coming back to me in my cans. Hopefully it's everything. Hopefully it's all of those things. But like I really, for me to feel like I'm being successful in the studio, I have to feel like that what I'm playing is good. Like I'm like, oh, this is a good song.
Perform for yourself a little bit.
Yeah, because
totally.
I tell people this too, that like if I feel like the song is good, it can play itself. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to fight so hard to make something good if it's already good. And so if it can stand alone, then it doesn't, then that can be that can be enough. But I guess for me, that's how I approach it, because I definitely feed off of people. Like, man, it takes so much.
It sounds like there's two crucial elements happening here, though. Being ready to do that, to record that song, not just like writing it and then 1 second later recording it, but also figuring out where to place your ego in that process.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I would 100% agree. Like the preparation, of course, is like, I think preparation is the only way to combat the self-doubt.
Yeah.
And feeling like at least I have that going for me. I might not catch lightning in a bottle. I might not strike gold, but I'm not going to flounder, I'm going to get something that I can at least be proud of because I prepared.
Studio always prepare, for sure, for me, especially with mandolin.
What does that mean?
It means like actually like know exactly what my break is going to be, where I'm going to put my little fingers and ding, 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 which notes I'm going to play the whole time, and then play those notes over and over again until I get it right, and do that solo every time. Don't get out of the box. Don't start trying to, because it's like I can't feel things the same way I can feel it on stage. I can just play the mandolin on stage, and I'm not saying every solo is great. I'm sure if I heard them recorded back, I'd be like, Dookie, why'd I do that? I'd get critical. But in the moment, I can feel things and it feels good, and I'm playing it for the moment and like for the sake of the audience and for that exchange, as opposed to when I hear it back, I definitely will question it. So it's better if I plan it out and know what it's going to sound like, and don't like even tempt the flow state in the studio, for me personally. So it's kind of like two different performances, kind of.
Do you have moments where you feel like you're on stage and you're not prepared enough, and like what happens then?
Those are my nightmares. Like that's my nightmares. Like I'm in a play and I go on stage for the play and I don't know any of the lines, and they're like, go. And I'm like, I don't even know. I've never been to rehearsal for this show, and I'm on stage doing the play. Like that's a recurring nightmare. It's my only recurring nightmare.
Yep.
I don't know, Andy. I don't know. Do I have that fear? No, I definitely. Tay has a crazy nightmare of like.
I have the same kind of nightmare. It's like the only time that it becomes like my dreams become a nightmare. It's like when I feel like I'm in like the most pivotal moment of my life, of my career, like about to go on stage and like my pedal board's not working, or a lot of times I have the terrifying dream, and it's like my moment. Everyone's expecting, everything is culminating this moment. I open up my guitar case and my guitar is in splinters, and I have that a lot. So it always comes down to like not being prepared, being the one that is like holding everybody else up. And that's what I guess that's why we prepare. That's one of the oars of the boat that gets me across the river of suck when I can get across it, is like making sure that I'm not going to be the one that holds everybody back from
Totally.
from sounding as good as they possibly can sound in those moments. Because if I can refocus my attention and my ego onto them, onto the sounds that they're making, and try to make them sound better, in the moment, that's the least I can do, But I can't always do it for myself. I can't always make myself sound as good as I possibly can. That's an elusive beast right there. But I can always focus my mind and try to make the others around me sound as good as they can.
Same. Yep.
So the $1 million question is, how do you harness that fear and turn it into like happiness and fulfillment and results?
Yeah, I
think that like the huge part of it is like accepting it, like looking in the face and being like, this is real. I feel like this. So does everybody else. It's okay. And like, I think like for me, like I treat it the same way I treat any like anxiety is a mental health struggle I have. And for a long time, I wanted to not have anxiety anymore. It's like, but that's not a reality. If you have anxiety and at the level that I have it, it's like you have anxiety. So I have choices. I can either be really upset and I can literally have emotional distress because I have anxiety and thus creating more anxiety for myself. Or I can be like, okay, this is a reality. I'm going to embrace this reality and nurture it best I can to kind of like make it better. And so like, I feel like I can do that with anxiety. I can do that with self-doubt. Like I do that with these like things in my mind that live there that I don't really enjoy spending time with. But if I make friends with them and like acknowledge their reality, they're so much quieter. And so for me, that's a huge part of it, is like acknowledging that they're part of my internal monologue and being like, you're not important, but you're there and I recognize you, but please stop. But I'm not going to think you're going to go away, but I can like, I feel like I can put my fingers on the knob and just turn the volume down. So that's what I do.
That's awesome.
Like, but they exist.
They do. And I think they have to feel it. They have to exist. I think if you ever got to a spot where it wasn't scary, I don't know if you should be doing that thing anymore, because
maybe you're just superhuman.
While
you're like fully evolved or something.
While you were speaking about that, I was thinking it made me think of something like, I've just started in the last year. I've gotten into sport climbing, and it's the biggest part of that is fear management. It's not physicality. It's not gear. It's not the route. It's not the temperature. It's not any of those things. It's the management of fear. But the more I've gotten into it, the more I'm like, you can either give into that fear, you can use that fear, and so I found myself like at every moment, I'm like, okay, this could go really badly. Like this could go really bad. Like I could, even though everything is where it should be, I'm all roped up, everything is tight and good, I could still make a mistake and really hurt myself, or worse. And, or the same, when I'm like, when I'm belaying somebody, like I could really hurt somebody else. So that fear is always there. And I feel like when I hit it, it's like when I can just manage that fear, it's always there. It's always there, kind of like the monkey on your back. But I don't want it to not be there, because it sharpens me.
It's telling you to stay alive.
Yeah.
And so, if you think about it, like the reality of like feeling like, I'm just like, this is like making my wheels spin a little bit. Like if you feel like you suck, and that's just a reality of like all musicians feel like we suck, that kind of actually is a reality, because we never know, like there's an audience or someone's perceiving us and it's objective. So they might think that, or it's subjective. So they might think we suck, and there might be 10 people that think you're great and 2 people that think you suck. And so it's like that self-doubt is maybe just your body cluing you into that reality that you're never going to be universally accepted or loved. Even celebrities, there's like, I hate them because it's like people who are like undoubtedly talented and famous. There's people who are going to gripe about them no matter what. So it's like that idea of like, everyone has self-doubt because there's always going to be people who are poo-pooing your art on some level, and that's just a reality of being brave enough to open your mouth and sing, or put your hands on a guitar and make sounds. And like,
but what I always say in those moments is like, when you start to feel those things, those like the realized doubt, whenever somebody is like saying that they didn't like it or giving you shit or throwing shade, what I always say is like the shade follows the sun. So I think it's an indicator of of you're doing something right. If you make somebody feel anything at all, negative, of course. Like if they feel something strong enough that they want to be like, I don't like that, I hate that, and they express that to you, I feel like even though I don't want to hear that every day, but
rather not.
but I do think it's
a sign you're on the right track.
It's a sign you're on the right track because
you're
because you're
inspiring,
pissing somebody off, you know. And I don't think.
No, I always have taken that as a sign that I'm on the right track.
You can.
Yeah.
Well, at every sinsingle time in our career, at every moment that you feel like that we feel like we and I'm speaking for myself here that that we've crossed some barrier that we were trying to cross. It always crops up with more of that, more shade being thrown, more
or like a little shake up in the personnel, like people being like, I don't like this or that. And you're just like
people trying to steal something away from you because they feel like you have a lot, you know,
or trying to grab onto the reins or something, like trying to be like, I think I should take over now. And you're like, I don't think so. I don't actually think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Thank you though for that input. Appreciate it.
So and maybe that's just a perspective shift, you know, that's just changing what you're looking at, or where the angle at which you're looking at it from.
Right on.
And so, because if somebody comes up and it happens more on the internet, of course, online, but if somebody comes up and tells me that they didn't like this or that, I find that that's better than people saying nothing at all, or even giving empty compliments. You know, I think that they're more powerful. They give me more drive. They give me more more resolve or something.
Yeah, man, that was great.
Yeah.
Great job.
It was great. Like, what do you
Good
know?
show.
You talked the whole time.
Good show.
You talked the whole time. Were you even listening?
Honestly, when somebody comes up and is like, I didn't like this and this is why, it usually makes me be like, cool. Like, it's usually, I'm not trying to dog old people, but it's usually an older person. And it's usually something that I thought was funny, or I thought was a little racy, or I knew that I was kind of dangling a toe over the line with something that I was saying, and then they come up and say it, and I'm like, cool, I knew you weren't going to like that. Like, that tickles me that you didn't like it. Thank you for telling me, actually. I appreciate that feedback. You weren't my audience, and it didn't play for you. I'm okay with that, actually. That makes me comfortable. You're uncomfortable, and I feel good.
So part of the whole like reason I do interviews like this is everyone who appears outwardly successful and confident has struggled just so much through their lives.
Fuck
and
yeah.
You guys are no exception. Do you have any stories of just like totally falling on your face, either in public or in your head?
I mean, I legit I bombed my senior talent show. Like, I had a really terrible choir teacher, and right before I went on stage, she like berated me, like gave me this huge lecture about how I think the world revolves around me, and she did this with her thumb, and then she did her other thumb like this, like her other thumb, like she's like, you think this is you, and you think the whole world revolves around you, and she yelled at me in front of like this whole group of seniors and of my peers, and it was like right before I walked on stage, and when I went on stage, my voice was like, I literally was like, my voice shook the whole song, like it was like shook like rapidly, like it sounded like I was singing into a box fan, like it was insane, like
yeah.
And I already like had a reputation for like doing this thing and being this person who plays guitar and sings, so like literally at the end of the song, people were like, that was so weird, what's wrong with her? Like they were like, that was fucking weird. Like I sang the whole thing, but I was literally like about to cry the whole time, and my voice was like shaking at like a like that kind of rate.
So what'd you do next? How do you move on?
I honestly don't remember. I think it was senior year.
Yeah.
I didn't go to graduation. Fuck that lady, man. No, I just like, you know, I was like classic, like burned out, like senior of like, I was so tired of school. So I was like already not doing things anyways. So
maximum mortified.
But I killed it at the senior pop show. The talent show. That was the pop show for like the choir kids. And then there's a talent show for the whole school. So that was my comeback story. So it's okay. It's
so you had a comeback story.
I had a comeback story, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh man.
Got any, Taylor?
I do have one that I can remember being very severe in the moment. So it was in my first real band, Spring Creek, and we had just signed. We had just signed the deal with Rebel Records, so we were we hadn't made the record yet, but we had been working with them, and then IBMA comes around, which is the International Bluegrass Music Association conference that happens every year. It used to happen in Nashville. Now it happens in North Carolina. But and so, for those of you who don't know, it can be a very sterile environment. I don't know if you've ever been out there, Andy, for IBMA, but you essentially end up playing in these like conference rooms, with fluorescent lights and drab walls, and it's not a performance space at all. I guess I'm trying to make excuses for what I'm about to say, but so we had all the president of the label, and then this guy's father. This was the first time that they were coming to see us play live. Was at IBMA, and then they had some other people on the team, and there was a couple other labels that were there to.
Those are the hardest shows. Those are like so
to
hard.
see us, and in that moment we were going through some serious band turmoil, interpersonal struggles. We weren't rehearsing a lot at all, really. We were playing gigs, but it was just pretty sour. It was just sour, and things were not going good. But we had these obligations, so we show up and we had a primo spot. We were like right after. Anyway, we were like right before the Steep Canyon Rangers. So we glommed off of their crowd because this is a decent sized conference room, and we're going right before them, and we knew all the important people that were out there in the audience watching us, and we went up and like just bombed. Like, we had 4 songs to play. The first one went okay. The second one, I think we false started, and then the third one was this song that we used to do called Pathway of Teardrops, and it has this big vocal a cappella ending, sort of
Danger.
like a la
Osborne
Doyle
Brothers.
Lawson or Osborne Brothers
yeah.
or something, where they have this big, where the chords are changing, chords are going from major to minor, and then it like ends in this huge epic resolution, right?
Yeah.
And we bombed it so hard where it was like this, everyone in the room, you could feel they're puckering their assholes because it was so bad.
Oh no.
And it was just like this total crickets moment after we sang. And then of course you get the smattering of sympathy applause because no one else knows what to do.
Sympathy applause.
Everyone is like, oh my God, that felt so awful. Holy shit, what do we do? Well, I guess we clap, and hopefully that'll push them off stage.
Nope, they're gonna do one more song.
And I remember like looking over at the other guys in the band, like, holy shit, that was so bad. And we didn't handle it well. You can kind of get out of those situations. You can just like keep moving on to something else and make them forget about it. But we didn't. We sort of lingered long.
You're like, that doesn't feel good. Let's stay right there.
And so because we were like looking at each other, we didn't know what to say because we wanted to apologize, but you can't apologize from stage. That was everyone's inclination, was like, we should say we're sorry for that, for what we just did, but you can't, it's
You
like,
can't.
you got to
apologize for it.
project the professionalism.
You gotta move on.
And I remember looking at the president of the label. He was in the front row. The president of the label, his dad.
Ooh.
So his dad had started the label years ago, the most historic bluegrass label, called Rebel Records. And he's looking up at us. And I remember this look on his face like,
What have I done?
What did we just do?
What's going on
we
here?
signed up these jokers. What did we do? And then he looks over at his son, and then I just remember this. I caught this moment of them looking at each other, and like it seemed like every decision that they had ever made in their life, they was being questioned in that moment.
Wow.
It's like we made the wrong call with these guys.
Based on your performance.
Our performance. And we were all suited up, it's like a bluegrass suit band thing. And so it was like, it seemed very formal, and it didn't have any of the lightheartedness that musical performance I think should have in terms of the audience to performer relationship. It was very sterile and like I was saying, very, very drab. And I think the moment was set up and rife for what ended up happening to us. But it was like so profound. I did vow that day that it would never happen again, that I would always be prepared, and that no matter what's going on internally on stage with the members of the band, that cannot permeate the music or the performance,
Mm-hmm.
So I learned from it, but it was fucking awful. It was so bad.
I mean, there's mistakes. Sometimes I feel like apologizing is the mistake, but some mistakes are just so egregious that you can't escape them.
Yes.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Sometimes I make
Where's
jokes
that
like
line?
recently in a couple Big Richard shows, like I'm just like, again, like I'm kind of flying by the seat of my mandolin pants or whatever. And so like I did something and it was shitty on some song and I just go, I hate the mandolin, I quit this band into the microphone, and everybody laughed. So it's like shit like that, where it's like you kind of like disparage yourself in a way that they're like, they know you're not serious. I don't hate the mandolin, I'm not going to quit the band. But then I got at the point that they're like, I know I made a mistake, and everybody laughed. So it like turned it into I would rather them laugh at me for messing up than feel sorry for me for messing up. So
scary. You have to laugh at it.
I always like try to make a joke out of it.
Yeah.
Being like, ooh, I suck, don't I? Ha ha ha.
And that's the only way to save it.
Like that's
is
the way
to
I do it. For sure.
I think is to make it light, try to make it lighthearted and not take it too seriously, because if you do, they're going to.
Yeah.
And then it just, and then because they're going to reflect back at you whatever you send to them. So if you're sending them those weird, awkward deer in the headlight vibes, they're going to send them right back.
Yeah. But if you laugh and you're like, this is hilarious, I just messed up, you guys. Did you see that? What a doofus. And they're like, yeah, you doofus, you adorable doofus.
And some of my favorite.
Then they're on your side.
Totally.
Yeah, then exactly. Then they're with you.
It's endearing.
And like,
mistakes are endearing if you know how to play it. So it's like I always try to make my mistakes endear me to the crowd, because I'm gonna make mistakes. That's a given for sure. So what do I do with my mistakes?
Yeah.
I make people smile and giggle about them. Be like, remember when she kind of messed up? That was so like, I loved that part. It's like, okay, whatever.
yeah,
I guess I'll keep not practicing. Thank you.
yeah. But and some of my most memorable moments, like watching live music, is when I see a hero or what I perceive as a superstar mess up.
Yeah.
Like whether it's like a forgotten lyric or whether it's a false start, or whether it's like a total whatever, just a total bomb moment or a moment of vulnerability. I remember those way more than anything else. Like I remember, I was watching Bruce Springsteen once, and I got great seats. I was on the second row at the Pepsi Center, and this wasn't a mistake per se, but he just started taking requests, and he took a request that only he knew, and the band didn't know, and
So they were making mistakes,
and
but
he's
Bruce
up there
wasn't.
like holding up numbers for the chords and really directing the band, and while trying to sing and play guitar, and the band is just like trashing it, like they're blowing changes because they don't know it, and that's fine, but it was so awesome. It was so awesome to see that vulnerability and to actually hear these masterful musicians that you never hear. I'm sure that they make mistakes, but you never hear them. You never perceive them,
right? Because
they're so good at their craft. And then to see them like totally bombing, like just
swinging and missing,
bombing,
miss after miss.
But it was
so funny.
It made it the most memorable song of the whole night. And I'll never forget
That's
that.
what I'm
moment.
saying. Like people, it sticks. Those things stick with them more than anything, because they're like. Yeah, they just feel it. They're like, for a moment, they're with you more than they are. Like, they can't be with you for every, like, time you take off and fly, but they can be with you and catch you when you fall. So, like, they got to catch you and, like, be there for that moment emotionally. And they're like, I was there when you messed up. I still love you. Like that kind of vibe.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes. It's real. That's what makes people feel like they're there.
Hell yeah. Let's talk about Big Richard for a second, because you guys are ruffling feathers in the right ways, I think.
No, I love it. I concur.
Talk to our listeners. Who is Big Richard,
Sure.
and whose feathers are being ruffled, and what are y'all doing about it?
Sure. Big Richard is a 4-piece neo-acoustic string band of all women, myself, Dr. Joy Adams, Eve Panning, and Emma Fenders. We play mandolin, bass, fiddle, and cello. And then Emma also throws in guitar in a few songs because she's an awesome guitar player. And we have, we started as a put together band, as bluegrass festivals will often do, they'll be like looking at their roster and they'll realize, oh shit, this is 40 dudes. We better get some women on this roster. I know what we'll do. We'll have a band of all women. Won't that solve every problem? So we were kind of making fun of that model of thinking, not to diss Make Awesome people at all, because they are indeed Make Awesome, and I love those folks. And they're not the first people or the last people to do that. So I don't think any blame or like guilt lies with the individual. I'm talking about like the whole mode of thinking within the music world of like, we have a festival that's all men. We'll have one band of essentially like token female musicians to placate that, as opposed to having like true gender equity where there's like bands it's like half and half, you know, like that kind of equalization of the scale. Right. So for me, it was more like we wanted to kind of poke fun at that. So, and we also, Eve and I had a conversation years ago about, she just came up to me and was like a little bit tipsy at a festival. And she was like, how do you do it? And I was like, I don't know. What do you mean? She's like, how do you just do it? How do you just like be so like, she was basically like, how are you so confident is what she was asking me. But I just told her, I said, I whip out my spirit dick and I hit people in the face with it. And I make them feel like they don't have another option. And I just like assault them with my music is basically what I was saying. And so now in Big Richer, we like to say like, we're going to do that with consent because consent is cool.
Yeah.
But like literally like the idea that like as women, we are going to just assert ourselves more in a space that feels like women are more celebrated when they are like used as these kind of like docile props, and people want you to be a certain thing as a woman on stage. And we're kind of saying we're going to be whatever the fuck we want to be on stage. And we're going to do it really unabashedly and like kind of like in your face with it. And we're going to laugh and talk about how it's making you uncomfortable and point at you and laugh maybe even during the show. Like I literally did that at a show recently. Like, and there was a lady who like, I was telling the story and I said, oh, we used to be called Spirit Dicks of the Rocky Mountains. And everybody laughs except for this like 65-year-old gray-haired woman in the back. I see her like literally put down her cheese plate and be like, and like going to like looking around and talking to her husband and pointing at us. And I was like, that's right. I said the word dick. That's for you in the back. I was like, I said, that's for the Silver Sagger in the back, because we have this song called Silver Dagger that we started calling Silver Sagger to reference the people who we're making mad, like who tend to be of an older crowd. So it's like, I'm sorry if this makes you uncomfortable. Like, I'm not gonna not be myself because people when you were 30 didn't talk like this. Like, I'm not gonna like live your history. I'm gonna live my life now. So it's just really funny and like super intense and like has been an amazing cathartic experience on stage to be with, like having the most fun musically, you know, and really playing for each other and having this experience of getting to do that is like a trip.
So one of the best things I think about Big Richard is your ability to take negative comments and turn them into like, they pump you up, right?
Totally.
Like what is that?
Yeah, it's just kind of like being like, oh, well, we're kind of trying to do this. We're a little bit like we have got our pins out and we're pricking. We're like ding ding ding.
Do you have an example? Like what's one of those like really dumb things that people send you get Instagram messages all the time, right?
Totally.
Just
I mean, we've had
disparaging the band.
Yeah, just being like, or asking for like being like, oh yeah, send me this kind of picture, you know, being like, and so people who have asked for porn, I literally Googled, I was just like male porn, and I just got a big old honking picture of just a naked dude just holding his huge freaking dick, and then I Photoshop Bill Monroe's face over it, and I send them that when they ask me for bluegrass porn. So if you want bluegrass porn, I'll send you bluegrass porn. That's fine. It will be a huge picture of Bill Monroe's hypothetical dick, and I don't care. Like, and then they never message back. Like not a single person has responded when they ask me for that, and then I send that picture. So I mean, I do that kind of stuff where I'm just like so sick of it, but I'm not going to run away from it. I'm going to make you uncomfortable. You're trying to make me uncomfortable. Let me show you actually how that feels.
What about the Descent memes where you turned some of them into graphics, right?
Sure. We like took things that people said in the beginning of this band, and we turned them into like inspirational graphics. Like just took, you know, there was another band that like didn't want to work with us because they didn't feel like it was on brand for them to like, because they felt like we were inappropriate, like, which we are a little bit inappropriate. I like to think that we're inappropriate with a purpose and that it's funny and that we're adults and that it's not like the idea of like being inappropriate should evolve with society. And like real inappropriateness is like, do doing horrible things to each other and not saying anything. Like, inequality is inappropriate. Racism is inappropriate.
Yeah.
These things, like saying fuck is not really that inappropriate anymore. Can we get over that? Like, oh my God, grow the fuck up. Like, I'm really tired of that, of like people like policing what I can say so that I'm quote unquote ladylike, or like, I don't want to think that because I'm a woman, I have to be like demure at all. Like, I'm not going to be. I am not.
Yeah.
So I can't fit in that mold. And so like a band telling us they don't want to work with us. And so we do like a, a sunset picture and like a beach, and it just says your band doesn't really fit with our branding. Like, and just we're literally going to print them and sell them at our merch table. Like, we plan to potentially make money off of those things. Like, it's important to us to be like, we're going to sell the shit that you said that was shitty, and we're going to make money at our merch table.
Yeah, that's an amazing transformation.
Yeah.
Of negativity.
Yeah, totally. Perceived negativity. Like, they're trying so hard, but we're like, we refuse to like put that on us. You don't get to put that on us. So we're going to take your energy and use it in a way that you didn't expect. That's not going to make you feel like you achieved what you wanted.
I love that.
So I'm all about that.
It's funny. You guys have said more swear words than a single guest or group of guests in the history of this podcast.
That's true. You market explicit. I apologize if that's not your market, but I really do have like, there's a thing about me. Like, I hope that as society, we can get past that. Like, to me, like things that are vulgar are so much more deep than a word other than hate speech. Like, I agree that hate speech is vulgar as like, that's disgusting. Like, don't call somebody a racial slur. That's disgusting. It's historically violent. People have been murdered because of those words and hung from trees because of those words. How dare you?
Right.
Like, but a cuss word, I don't feel the same way about. Like, I feel like we have like the purity society is like really exhausting to me. I feel like can't do it anymore.
Oh man. Yeah, I've historically so far I've bleeped out every swear word. I'm just like, wow, this is going to be a lot of bleeping.
Oh my God,
I might have to just put out there's language in this episode.
I love you so much. You do whatever is on brand for you. You should have told me that at the beginning.
No. I like to let people say what they want, and then I decide later what to do with it.
Okay, I honor that's
how it fucking works.
That's honorable. I love
like
it.
that. I like that.
Let's talk about Everybody Loves an Outlaw. What's the difference between Bonnie and Taylor Sims and Everybody Loves an Outlaw, and why is your most famous song so controversial?
Well, the biggest difference is that Everybody Loves an Outlaw is, for all intents and purposes, an internet band that was sort of started without the normal arc of why you start a band. It came out of this thing. It was a music licensing project to start that we recorded these songs in 2018 with a producer friend of ours, then who is now our partner in all this. He just approached us to record these 4 songs that he had already written, and to be a part of this project that he wanted, that he was calling Dark Country, and so we said, of course, we'll try it. We'll try anything in this business because you got to be diversified to make it work. Yeah. So we said, yeah, we'll do it, and then we put it up on a shelf, and that was it. That was all. We were like, man,
it went to a licensing house, and we didn't hear anything for years.
We didn't hear anything for years, and then
2 years,
and then in 2020, in the summer of 2020, it got placed in the movie in the movie 365 Days, which went bonkers on Netflix, and then the song ended up going bonkers, even bigger than the movie in a lot of ways, and so then we were sort of forced in this. Well, you have an artist perception now, so you got to be this band now. We
basically had this opportunity to have this artist profile that was like not something we expected or built ourselves, but that our face was on, and we had a huge platform. All of a sudden, we have 1.6 million monthly listeners on Spotify.
So what happens in the movie when your song happens?
Yeah, so it is a Polish skin flick. It is a little legit. It's like the closest thing to porn that Netflix has ever put out. It's like they show everything except his actual dick. They show like butts and everything.
But so to answer your question, the song got placed in like the pivotal scene when they do it consensually for the first time, because the movie is pretty problematic. It's like a cross between 50 Shades of Grey and Beauty and the Beast.
She's a captive. She has 1 year to fall in love with him.
She's captive, and so she does.
She's been kidnapped.
She does eventually, like 1 hour and 8 minutes in, she does. And there's this scene on the boat when they hook up. Finally, consensually, and our song plays.
Perceived consensually because she's still a captive. But we're not going to get into all the politics of that. Right.
Our song plays. Our song plays over that scene at full volume from start to finish, which is an anomaly in the soundtrack world.
Yeah.
In terms of, usually it's just a clip. It's a background thing. It's not at full volume.
Yeah, you still get paid, but your song isn't like this like thing that's like being. The movie isn't giving your song a huge basically they put our song on a billboard in the movie. They played the entire thing.
Amazing.
With nothing over it, no other audio over it.
Yeah.
And at full volume. So it's like they changed our lives by doing that, because all of a sudden millions of people heard me sing, heard us play music, and they all went, "Who's that? I want to know who that is." And it made Rolling Stone email us, and it was crazy. It was literally insane. Be like, "Who are you? Tell us about yourselves."
So it was like overnight that it had to become a band, because that was the perception, that was the public perception of what it was, that it already was a band, but it wasn't. And so we had to decide, we're gonna ride this thing and see what happens with it. So, but then with Bonnie and the Bonnie and Taylor Sims band, that's much more of our authentic.
What we've always played.
What years and years of cultivation have gotten us, where it's like, the songs are what I would say is they're more honest, they're more us, it's more
less produced.
It's more rootsy, it's less produced, it's more organic, and it's more real for, I think, who we really are as
creatives.
artists.
Yeah, for sure.
And then the Everybody Loves an Outlaw, not that it's not without its creativity, and we've written a lot of songs with our producers since then to add to that Everybody Loves an Outlaw catalog, and it's really fun to be creative in that. But it's a different
style
thing.
It's like a very specific pigeonholed thing that we're trying to do. We are creating a thing.
Yeah.
So it's not like, how do you feel and what do you want to say? We're not writing those kind of songs at all. We're writing songs that make people feel like they can apply it to themselves. It's like a really formulaic,
right.
psychological way of writing. It's cool to learn. Like pop music writing it's cool. And when you learn it, you're like, I see now why they, I get it. I get it why there's never objects in the sentence. There's not like lots of eyes, and the sentences don't start that way. They're just like walking down the whatever. It's like, it could be a group of friends. It could be you. It could be me. Nobody knows who it is. It's like, there's all this ambiguity, it's so ambiguous. So,
but it also sounds to me like you feel like you're expressing yourselves in different ways across various projects, and that variety is allowing you to have a more fuller experience.
Oh God, yes, totally.
Yeah, definitely. That's very very succinct. And because again, just like with diversification and searching for success in this business, you have to, I think for us, we have to find those elements of self-expression in anything that we do, whether it be playing an empty bar gig, or playing or having writing these songs that are now having millions of streams on Spotify. And I mean, those are very different worlds, but I guess we want to make sure that we feel ourselves, and we feel expressive, even in those, like the meest of me and the usest of us, whenever we do those things, because we do want it to be authentic, even though it's very different.
Yeah. And as creatives, we also want to be like, this is an opportunity that recognize that this is an opportunity that not a lot of creatives get. And we have this opportunity. We would be fools. It'd just be so silly to not look at it and be like, okay, what can we do here? How can we build on this? Mm-hmm. How can we cross promote our other, I use all kinds of Everybody Loves an Outlaw stuff to talk about Bonnie and Taylor Sims all the time, because nobody's monitoring me. Nobody owns the brand except us. So I can do that with some, I can do that as much as I want. And I promote Big Richard on Everybody Loves an Outlaw sometimes. It's like I have these huge social media channels because of the viralness of the movie and that one song. So it's like I'm going to use those to advance myself creatively now on all the fronts that I'm on. And Everybody Loves an Outlaw is helping me do that with numbers that make anybody in the industry go, excuse me, who are you? Like I can send an email that has these, like this bulleted list that makes people email me back most of the time, which is really cool because it's not always like that. Like, but numbers do have a certain grabbiness in this industry. And so the fact that we have these like super grabby numbers now, I mean,
like how many, what's the YouTube listens now on?
Oh, I just looked at our YouTube channel because we have 46 million video plays. I mean, we have insane. And it's like we had 4 million hours of Spotify listening last year. Like we're in the millions of hours for our listeners. So it's like, it's insane. It is mind-boggling to me, but it's also like this huge resource of a marketing tool that I am not going to snub my nose at. I will ride that shit till I die because it works, A, right now for us at least, and B, I'm not going to, like, it doesn't happen to everybody. It's like super rare. So I'm not going to, I'm not going to be like, oh yeah, that was in 2020. I'm going to be like, in 2020, we got fucking this on Rolling Stone and we were signed to Columbia Records and Billboard, this chart and this chart. I'm going to put that on every GD booking email I send because it makes people pay attention and it's really worthwhile.
So you have 16 years of history together and it took all of that to bring you to that moment. So totally. I think that's important to highlight though, because you didn't just appear out of thin air and make this happen, right? Like all the suffering that's...
16 years of work got us there. And saying yes to multiple projects, not being like, I only sing my songs and I only play this kind of music, being like, we're open to trying stuff with other creatives. Like we're not so proud of what we do that it's the only thing we can do. Yeah. We're willing to get behind somebody else's idea. That has given us a lot of learning opportunities, business opportunities, and ground to stand on as far as creatives. Like if you think that you always have to be the driving creative force, you're going to miss out on a lot of other good shit because you already know what's in your head. So it's really fun to go play in somebody else's brain and playground for a while. And we've done that on a regular basis and learned a ton and gotten lots of good jobs out of it.
Yeah. And it's always been, it's never been the thing to orient ourselves towards any kind of stardom at all. I think that's empty. And but we've at the bottom of all of it, we've always just worked hard at whatever it was that we were doing, whether it be, playing at a nursing home, and playing like I've said multiple times here is playing to empty bars, and like it's always been for something else, like always treating it as like this is work and we need to work hard for it, and the moments will come as long as you're it's like what's that saying, like the if your nose is to the grindstone, it's something to the effect of like you don't think about the small moments because you're working on them. You're working towards something, so you don't get lost in the success or unsuccess of those smaller things if your nose is on the grindstone. If you're working hard for it and putting that as sort of the carrot that you're out there chasing. So
like hard work is the objective. Yeah, success is not the objective. It's never, for us, that's never been the objective. It's only in terms of like, hey, we want to pay our bills. We want to make a living at this. Like that to us is the marker of success, as opposed to being like, we want this or that within the industry itself. Sure.
Cool. So let's check out a whole song now. What are we going to hear?
This song is the first single off our new record, Leveland. It's called Every Little Bit, and it's one of my favorite Patty Griffin songs. She's a total badass, really great songwriter, and I've loved her, since high school. So it's really fun to record this and pay tribute to her on this album.
I hope you dig it.
It's funny how a morning turned our love to shame. Disguised and disfigured, and you thought I tasted like rain. There's nothing here but the shadows, nothing here. Now you know, now you know, now you know. Nothing here but the shadows, and now you know. I spit in the eye, I tear out my heart, and I scatter all the bits. Oh yeah, I stay unseen by the light, stay untold by the truth. I am sold by a lie. In this I am able, and all of my travels just to make your memory quit. But tonight I can clearly recall every little bit. Well, I can chew like a cannibal, and I can yell just like a cat. Oh yeah, I've even had you believing that I really, really like it like that, like that, like that. Whoa, but there was never a moment, not a moment. Now you know, now you know, now you know. You ever got within 100 million miles of my soul? Ooh. I spit in the eye, I tear out my heart, and I scatter all the bits. Ooh yeah, I stay unseen by the light, stay untold by the truth. I am sold by a lie. In this I am able, and all of my travels just to make your memory quit. But tonight I can clearly recall every little bit. Oh, you left open the window to the morning, and the winter walked in. Oh yeah, reality fired, her wooden bullet splintered under my skin. They say I'm walking on freedom, this is freedom. Now I know, now I know, now I know. And I don't blame you for leaving, baby, 'cause it's cold when you're living with ghosts. I spit in the eye, I tear out my heart, and I scatter all the bits. Ooh yes, I stay unseen by the light, stay untold by the truth. I am sold by a lie. In this I am able, and all of my travels just to make your memory quit. But tonight I can clearly recall every little bit. Every little bit, 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 oh, oh, oh.
Thank you both so much for joining me on this journey through, across, over, under the river of suck.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thanks, Andy. This was
Thank
fun,
you for
man.
having
This
us.
was Great.
You've been so fun. Bonnie and Taylor Sims, where do we find you online? How can we support you?
BonnieandTaylor.com. So you can find about all our bands there, and you can find Big Richard Band on Instagram and Facebook. Just we're on the socials right now. We're not doing a website yet, but we will get there. But BonnieandTaylor.com will have all your Bonnie and Taylor needs.
All the things.
All the details.
All the things and places and clicks.
Sweet. We'll see you there in the future.
Thanks, Andy.
Thanks, Andy.
Nobody ever said crossing the River of Suck would be easy or that you had to do it alone. So thanks for tuning in and giving it a chance. Join the River of Suck swim team for just $1 a month at riverofsuckswimteam.com to receive all kinds of bonus content. From this episode, you're going to get hilarious outtakes and an exclusive fiddle tune jam. I want to send a quick shout out to Tracy Silverman and his For the Greater Groove podcast. Go check it out. I'm his special guest for a full episode released in December 2021. And here's a hint. You'll be hearing from Tracy on a River of Suck podcast near you pretty soon. So go check out For the Greater Groove. You've made it to the end. So, right now, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, please leave a review for River of Suck podcast. It gives us a boost and more people are going to hear about it. This can be on Apple Podcasts, Facebook, Spotify, wherever. Thank you kindly in advance. My name is Andy Reiner. Thanks to my special guest today, Bonnie and Taylor Sims. Until next time, keep swimming.